Crackle mediums can be a really cool way to add a texture or interest into an area of painting or give it an old antique look. There's a lot of different things you can do with a crackle medium. There's also a lot of different crackle mediums out there. They all do different things. They have different properties and they act differently, and you can use them in so many different ways. Let's take a look and compare these. I'll show you how they work, and hopefully you'll come up with some really cool ideas on how you can take crackle mediums to your own work. The three crackle mediums that we're going to use today are Golden Crackle Paste, Kroma Crackle, and Sonja's Crackle Medium. Let's check them out. The first thing we're going to look at is the color it is to start right out of the container, the color it dries to, and its general viscosity. Golden Crackle Paste is a paste. It is white, opaque, and super lightweight. This jar feels like it's empty. It is so lightweight, like a feather. This gives it an amazing ability to build up texture, creating peaks and valleys on whatever surface you apply it to. And, of course, you can smooth it out as well. Not only does it come out of the container white and opaque, it also dries white and opaque. Kroma Crackle comes out of the tube as a thick, heavy, kind of yellow gel. This is great for moderate to thin applications and dries to a milky white. One added bonus to Kroma Crackle that these other crackle mediums do not have is that you can add a little bit of color when you are applying it. While this stuff is wet, you can put some color in it. But you don't want to put too much. Absolutely just a teensy weensy little bit. I would say 15% color to the amount of Kroma Crackle, and make sure that you test your piece first. If you add in too much acrylic, those polymers stick together and they prevent things from cracking. So this one is a great one to test and practice before you actually take it to your work. But I absolutely love that you can add some color to this. When you do add color, remember this dries white. So even though you're mixing a color in, it may look super dark, like this dioxazine purple is almost black. But when it dries, it's going to be as though I added white to my purple. And the ultimate result is going to be a much lighter version than what I see on application. Sonja's Crackle Medium straight out of the bottle is the lowest viscosity out of all three of these. It is not a textural medium. It has some self-leveling properties, in fact. But it is still a gel. It looks a little hazy out of the bottle, but dries absolutely crystal clear. So the key here is if you are showing off artwork where you want to see what's underneath of this crackle that you're adding in, Sonja's is the way to go, as this is the only one of the three that dries crystal clear. Now let's take a look at what you can put all three of these on. What surfaces are they good for? Golden Crackle Paste is best for rigid surfaces. That's going to be a canvas board or a hard panel or anything that doesn't have a flex to it. Kroma Crackle is the only one out of all three of these that is good for flexible surface. If you're painting on a stretched canvas, cloth, or anything flexible, Kroma Crackle is the one that you want to go for. Sonja's Crackle Medium, when it dries, is brittle. It does adhere well to rigid surfaces, but is not good for flexible surface. What do you want to apply crackle mediums with? Well, either a brush or a palette knife. And the choice is yours, but in some cases, one is better than the other. Across the board, a palette knife is going to work for all three of these. I especially recommend it for Golden Crackle Paste. This one is such a textural paste that this is going to be the best way to apply it and not have a brush get all gunked up. Kroma Crackle is also great when applied with a palette knife. You can also use a brush with it. The key here is that you don't want to get it so thin that it actually isn't cracking at all. Sonja's Crackle Medium, you could easily use either one of these. The low viscosity of this particular one works just fine with both. In fact, they go so far as to give you some instructions if you're going to use a brush. By using a crisscross pattern, you kind of create this happily random crackle effect. However, if you go in one direction only with all of your strokes, the cracks will actually follow that. While the directions ward against it, it is kind of a cool technique that you can apply and use to your own advantage. All right, you impatient people, let's talk dry time. Golden crackle paste, it's overnight. If you use it super thick, you might be looking at a day or two. But for the most part, this one is an overnight dry time after application. Kroma Crackle comes in at the one that takes the longest to dry. Its instructions say 1 to 3 days, but if you have put a thicker application of this stuff on, you're looking at 4 or 5 plus days before this stuff dries. It's interesting too, you can actually watch it as it cures. You can tell if a piece is dry or not by how it looks. Here, this piece is in the process of drying. So you'll see there are areas that are white and areas that are dark. You can tell Kroma Crackle is dry because it shifts from a semi-transparent to a milky white. Just Sonja's crackle medium is the fastest, so for those of you that are impatient, this is the one for you. It only takes a few hours for thin applications, well, really even thick applications. They don't take more than a day. Once these crackle mediums are dry, they all have a different texture. Golden crackle paste dries to an semi-absorbent, matte, toothy finish. It's almost like a gesso, really. It has a nice texture to go on and put more things. This particular one would lend itself great to actually putting a dry media on top of it, in addition to acrylics or any other medium. Kroma Crackle, once it's dry, is a fairly smooth, still matte finish. It does hold paint quite well though. You can absolutely paint over it and it will grab onto the paint and hold it there. Once the Sonja's crackle medium is dry, it is a very glossy, very slick finish. This is going to be best for if you want to do an antiquing wash. So you see what's happening underneath, you do a wash of color over top, and then you take a towel and wipe off the color so that what remains is just color that has seeped and fell into the cracks. The slick surface of this means it's not going to hold paint super well, so things will be streaky on top of it. However, it does have pretty good adhesion on rigid surfaces and can be sanded to a more toothy finish if you want to paint something over top and not have it be streaky. And if you found something interesting in this video, I'd appreciate a like. We mustn't dwell on the negative, but all three of these do have some things that are worth noting and to watch out for. The crackle paste, if it flakes, will reveal a white spot. This makes it kind of important if you're using it in a more textural way where there's lots of peaks and valleys. Make sure that that is well sealed and protected so that it doesn't get bumped or chipped down the road. Kroma Crackle can be a little frustrating in how long it takes to cure. It can be worse than watching paint dry. The real trouble that you can get in with Kroma Crackle is not watching your ratio when you're adding color in while it's wet. Sticking to a 15% color to the amount of Kroma Crackle that you have is crucial to making sure that you still get cracks. Sonja's crackle medium does have a smell to it. And while it does not say that it is fumey in any way, I would recommend working with it in a well-ventilated area if you're doing something more than just a very tiny spot. Since there are so many different crackle mediums out there, all of them will have their own directions. So be sure, whatever you choose, to check those out and make some tests before you apply them to your own artwork. See you next time.